Morning, everyone. Check it out. Check it out. Right? I'm not sure if the absolute top one is up there, so I'm going to try to adjust things without knocking everything over. Good morning. Oh, there. Oh, my goodness. There was so much of that tapestry you all weren't getting. Boom. How y'all digging it? Right? I've been using, you all know that I've been adding so many different backgrounds now and again, but this one, I debuted it yesterday. If you haven't been catching, Mending Mondays with the Michigan Disability Rights Coalition. So I debuted it yesterday. If you're looking for a nice little dance party, it was a wonderful DJ music set by a Detroit DJ named DJ Problematic Black Hottie. So I figured that this was apropos for the background as we started that session. Good morning, everyone. Please say hello if you're here. And I'm really excited. Well, I'm always excited. I'm always excited just to be able to be here and share. Excited to be able to be on my mat and be ready for practice. Good morning, Claudia. If you're new, Tuesday is the beginning of our home yoga practice week. Oh, did I neglect to say I am Belinda with Just Be Yoga, and we are here with our home yoga practice live Tuesday morning, September 15. This week, I'm really happy to explore, and I really don't have a plan. Actually, I don't know if you guys don't know that I really don't have a plan each week. The plan is being formulated as we go, again, sharing my practice. But I really thought about, why don't we explore moksha? And if you're not familiar with that term of moksha, that can be an aspect of your guidance or study this week. But moksha means, a lot of times loosely in our popular culture, we refer to it as freedom. And you're going to see tons of memes where people are standing in a mountaintop like this with big smiles, or they're on the ocean, and right. And so it basically means retreat, get away, and I'm free, and joy. Joy as in, what's up, Chi-Town? But so that's how we like to illustrate freedom. But in a yogic sense, freedom means emancipation and liberation from the cycles of suffering in our lives, right? So there's plenty of cycles of suffering, whether it's hunger, whether it's sickness. We have misunderstandings, and they end up being these cyclical cycles of suffering. Okay, I'm sure many of us have patterns in our own lives. We go, I just keep doing the thing, right? All right, so moksha. That's what I wanted to explore and bring into our practice this week, and maybe peel away a little bit of our understanding of it, because that's what so that guidance and that study aspect will be. All right, for those of you who are new, we create basically, this is a development plan, right? To develop your own personal yoga practice here at Home Yoga Practice Live. So we come up with a theme, we set about a plan. Okay, so get a journal, have a journal that you dedicate for your own practice, and maybe write today, week 1 or week 3, wherever you are, the plan, moksha. Okay, Belinda says we want to explore moksha. Do I even want to do that? All right, you can just start right there and say, no, I want to practice rootedness. All right, boom, do whatever, but make a plan. So today, moksha. The other aspects of creating our plan is we set aside the amount of time that we want to do. And we apply our tapas, or our discipline, to the time that we set for ourselves. I love tapas because it helps me distinguish between practice and punishment. And oftentimes I lean toward grabbing a baseball bat and wanting to hit myself with it and say, I didn't do it as much as I said, and the whole rest of the world practices more than I do, right? And so I go, oops, look, I slipped there. Patterns, right? Breaking free from those patterns. And then we observe. So hopefully after you've practiced, meditate, sit quiet, or journal, or do a combination. That's what I mean by observing. So after we've moved the issues in our tissues, after we've done our breath practices, after we have applied ourselves into the applied science, the application part of our yoga, we get to then sit and reflect or observe, coming a little bit more into the dharana and dhyana limbs of yoga, focus, and meditation. And then guidance. You can observe a bunch of stuff, you can practice a bunch of stuff, and you could be doing it wrong. And not wrong, but maybe going down a path that isn't that's leaning into your desires more than the truth of the journey, right? I can be like, I like cake, so I should eat cake every day. Actually, my whole diet's on cake because I like it and it brings me joy of doing my yoga. And we all know that, okay, that would be excessive. Yes. Is it wonderful? Do I enjoy it? Does it bring me joy in my senses? Mm-hmm. If I ate solely the cake every day, all day, would I be on a path of liberation? Probably not. Okay, so here's what I wanted to share a little bit, and that is from some of. So you all know that I recommend deeper dimensions of yoga. I'm looking to see if I have that as a prior panel that. Whoa, what happened? I am terribly sorry. Uh, so anyway, we're back. All right. So in a book called Deeper Dimensions of Yoga, which I greatly recommend, it does say that moksha can be a part of our pathway. Pathway. And in order to take the pathway, we have to apply ourselves to it. What I really wanted for my aspect of my practice this week is, can I distinguish between desiring to receive a sense of freedom as though it's a bonus, right? As though it's the joy I get from the aroma in a wonderful shower. That's kind of passive, where I get to just receive it and I go, ah. Can I transfer my understanding of moksha from that into how do I apply myself toward freedom? How do I flex a freedom muscle? And that's completely different than sitting back and waiting for like the Santa Claus moksha deity to come down through the chimney and give me stuff, right? Give me my freedom feeling. Instead, can I apply myself toward freedom in my actions, in my words, in my intentions and my efforts? And what does that look like? Do I move with a sense of liberation? Do all of my joints feel liberated and emancipated? Does my mind and my thinking pattern feel free? What clutters up my thinking? Huh, right? I'm sure we all just did a collective. Is what doesn't, bog up our mind from feeling free? And if I take myself into that mindset, how might I actually embody the feeling that I want to receive more by actually applying myself to it? All right, so I'm going to wait for a moment and see if anybody has any thoughts that they want to share so far with what I have been talking about. Sorry again for that little blip in the internet that kicked me off, and I'm back in, and I see that you all are still here, I think. So yeah, what are your thoughts about moksha? Have you heard of this term before in your yoga practice? What has it meant for you? How have you applied yourself toward moksha? Or is that a new thought, a new concept? So come on, let's type on in. We're here and able to have a live experience. And that means interacting with one another, sharing our thoughts, and getting feedback. So I'm going to wait for a moment and see who's got some thoughts that they want to share. I also am going to look up another quote about moksha that I had wanted to share with you all. Hello, who's here? Talk to me. After we do a little bit of this discussion, we'll get to move a little bit and determine our postures for this week. But remember, our practice is not solely poses. The yogic practice is a path toward liberating ourselves. What? Nobody has a thought about what is freedom? What is moksha? Okay, so I'm gonna just share in a reading a little bit as I wait one more little bit, giving some folks some time, chew on it. Hopefully, you're not feeling self-conscious about I don't have anything to say or I don't want to share. Maybe apply yourself toward freeing yourself of that inhibition. New word, but similar concept. Makes me think of breathing. Nice, Claudia. Thank you so much for sharing. For those who are not here on Facebook and maybe are here on YouTube, we might see Claudia's contribution here. And our friend from Chi-Town is saying that hasn't heard of this word before. All right, so moksha means freedom. And oh, Kara, yay! Hi, good morning. Definitely a new concept for me in yoga, but I'm intrigued. I would love to free myself from my boredom and anxious thoughts. Lovely. All right. Thanks, you all. Hey, there's Ansel over there in YouTube. Still reflecting on what I shared. I can't think of anything to contribute. Loved your distinction between freedom as a feeling and freedom as a passive application. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you so much, Ansel. Ansel, I think I already told you that got to talk to Willie and Linda from our Tai Chi class. I'm going to read a little bit from Deeper Dimensions on Yoga, and then we'll come up with maybe some ideas to put together our practice plan for the week so that we can implement our focus onto moksha. So on Deeper Dimensions, it says, yoga has for several millennia been employed as a pathway out of suffering. Suffering is called dukkha in Sanskrit. And to liberation, moksha, or enlightenment, bodhi. Okay? All of that together. Okay? A pathway out of suffering to liberation or enlightenment. Long ago, the masters of yoga recognized that we can never be completely satisfied with life until we have found the source of happiness beyond pleasure and pain. And let's just let that sit in for a moment. Have we even thought about, freedom being pleasure distinguished differently than within those polar opposites of pleasure and pain? Happiness, sorry, being able to be something that's not in that spectrum, that it's free of that. If you remember, we've talked about sattva in terms of balance, and that there's rajas and tamas and sattva. So in some ways, happiness gets to be that sattva in between pleasure and pain. But I think oftentimes we really align our happiness with pleasure only. And we see that happiness as a source of freedom. But as I just used in my cake analogy, sometimes over happiness can end up not being really free at all. Even when we're completely fit and healthy, enjoy a relatively balanced nervous system, and live in an apparently meaningful way, deep down, we still feel ill at ease. We just have to dig deep enough to go past all the layers of limited satisfaction, the kind of satisfaction that depends on having just the right sort of external circumstance. If I only had this thing, then. We can easily discover whether we are truly content and happy when we lose our job, have our marriage break up, or have a good friend suddenly turn against us. In the case of a great yoga master, these events will not cause as much as a ripple in his or her mind. I'm going to pause there. I'm not asking us this week to go and practice losing the job, having a friend get ticked off at us, or any of those horrible things. But I'm sure that as we heard those examples, we know, I don't know if I can feel free in that. Part of the reason that I thought moksha would be a great topic is that I think that a lot of us, within the context of what's going on in today's world, we either feel as though we're fighting for our freedom, we feel as though freedoms are being removed from us, or that they're being inhibited in some way, and we are craving whatever it is that we think is freedom. Um, is there a way in which we can actually find that while all of that is going on outside, that there is a liberation that we are finding inside, and that ultimately we have some power to affect how we feel about that? Doesn't mean that various systems of oppression don't disappear, but how we carry ourselves and what we share ultimately outside of ourselves contributes to that greater paradigm. Um, so, can I find a sense of liberation within myself, even if I am being asked to limit my outside movements? What liberations or emancipations have I been able to explore in these last few months in terms of the pandemic? And do I feel okay with even being able to admit that? I think that sometimes some of us are a little hesitant to want to say what are some of the blessings or the joys or the liberations that we have found by changing up our schedules in certain ways, if we've been able to have that blessing. How do we find a sense of some sort of liberation, even in the sense of civil unrest across our country, across our globe? So if we take that, I'm just going to just step over there and then step back because I'm not trying to turn this into a political conversation. I don't really care where anyone stands in the spectrum of politics, but I know that we all have felt in our own ways, in our own personal lives, impacted in terms of our physical freedoms, in terms of our movement, in terms of even our expression and how free we feel to be able to express. And then how does that inhibition, those restrictions feel in our bodies, and what might we need to do to change that up? And how are we feeling them in our minds? Are we getting super stressed and feeling locked in? And how do we start to bring some actions toward liberating our mind from stuck patterns of thinking that make us feel trapped? All right, that's me and Belinda's TED Talk for the moment. Let's think about our, actually, let's have a moment of sit and some meditation. So make yourselves comfortable. Find a way of sitting that's comfortable for you, maybe on a cushion, a blanket, your back against the wall, and you can be sitting in a chair. Your eyes can be open or closed. Free yourself from even an idea or a preconceived thought about how you should be. And try to settle into being in your body in a way that feels the least distressing. Opening ourselves to possibility as well as capacity. Be in your skin, the layers of your skin and flesh. Feel your carnal existence. How does this carnal existence feel? Does it feel free to move within its ranges of movement as a physical human body? How do any limitations, perceived or true, affect our mind? So, an example, as I sit here, I feel a little strain on the right side of my neck. And my mind was affected because I really started to judge how I slept last night. And I'm trying to be honest because I didn't just say, oh, I realize I slept in an awkward position. No, my mind was really critical of myself, as though I could have changed my positioning when I'm unconscious. So my body is feeling a little lack of freedom in the neck. My mind is perturbed with judgment. And now I'm going to apply my thoughts to not just on the things that are wrong. Remember, applying our freedom, applying it as an action to look clearly at the whole picture. Because I don't want my neck to be how I relate to my entire body. And oh, my fingers feel free. The skin on my face and my legs feel free. My organs feel free. My organs feel free as in their functioning. Everything is eliminating and digesting well. Liberating myself from thinking and analysis, only identifying what I see as flaws or problems. Trying to bring some balance and freeing myself, therefore, from negative thought alone. All right. I just shared a little bit of a glimpse of a little bit of my internal process when I do a check in, and it really helps me know where I am in my body in an honest way, where I am in my mind, woo, in an honest way. And then when I got to look at, oh, but what are the free spaces? What's positive? What's going on and operating? All systems go, and send some gratitude to that. All right. So for our practice plan, I think if we can try to look at how you enter your mat time and exit your mat time and find a way of creating a system that's good for you as your check-in or your meditative space. All right. I like check-in. It feels like a palatable way and an easy way to step into practice. I think sometimes when we overlay the word meditation, it doesn't invoke a freedom of thought, right? We go, oh, at least collectively. And, personally, I'm actually okay with the term meditation, but as a teaching tool, I notice how it can become a barrier to some people actually finding freedom because we come into it with a preconceived notion. So use it as your check-in. What are some steps you want to apply to kind of pinging and checking in on, does that feel free? What's inhibiting the freedom? What's making something feel free? And how can I affect applying my mind into that freedom rather than waiting for it to fall like manna from heaven? All right, so a check-in process. Then let's talk about breath. All right, breath means prana means energy or breath, actually, when it is just clearly, almost literally defined. And of course, breath gives us the energy of life. How aware are we about how freely we breathe? Maybe that's something you want to incorporate into your plan this week. Every day, I'm going to take a moment and maybe write down what I noticed about my breath right then and there. Don't try to set aside an hour to observe my breath. Nope, maybe in the middle of washing dishes. Oh, yeah, I remember. And just write down, what are you noticing about your breath right at this moment? What did you notice about your breath before you stopped? I love to grab random moments throughout the day as a great check-in as to how I'm carrying the elements of my practice of yoga into my day-to-day behaviors. Because otherwise, I make my yoga something that's back here on this yoga mat, and that means that I close it away in a closet, and it's not something that's a part of my day-to-day life. And I want it to be a living, breathing practice because that's what practicing it means. All right, so that's all I'm going to say about pranayama today. I'm not going to give us any specific breath practices. Certainly, if there is a certain pranayama that you are already practicing and you're enjoying, great. Look at it. Observe how you're feeling in it. Look at how freely the air is moving in and out. Can you feel the end and the beginning of the inhales and exhales? Is there a free open flow or is there a stoppage? Are we free from worrying about the breath so that the breath is freely moving without us having to apply so much intensity? Now, that's a great segue into asana. and intensity. And so I'm going to think for a minute about the kinds of poses. I'm open to any suggestions of poses that anyone wants to work on this week. So typey. Are there some postures that you're just like, hey, I've been dying for this one. I want to know a little bit more about that one. And as you know, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, well, we'll have an opportunity to pick apart a little bit of that anatomy, the applied action, blah, blah, blah. But we get to do it all with an overlay of moksha. So I am really eager to see what you all have. As I'm waiting for a couple of suggestions of poses, the intensity element that I was just segueing from after talking about breath, that intensity element, think about it as your tapas, right? And that's that element of our niyamas, discipline or devotion. I know because I share my practice, that's all. I'm not trying to say I do things this way and you have to. Remember, I'm just sharing. But my experience with tapas and discipline has often been one that is pretty rigid. And when I say rigid, that means that I apply myself with a white knuckle grip. And that's an intensity that's choking. White knuckle grip, is that freedom? That's pretty much says I don't trust it. I'm going to force it. I'm going to hang on for dear life. I'm going to force it to bend to my will. And none of those would be ways in which I would describe moksha or emancipation or liberation. So when we start to step into our postures, Joe says balance, half moon. Ooh, all right. So, all right, we've got one pose. Thank you, Claudia and Joe, for the suggestion of Ardha Chandrasana. That would be half moon pose. I'll demo that in a moment, and we'll see about modifications. But let's try to bring now in that overlay of, even as we start to learn something as far as a posture that might be new, can we do it without a chokehold? Can we have a freedom in our mind? That means that it's forgiving, right? Forgiveness is a nice freedom word. Acceptance or contentment is a nice freedom word. So as we apply ourselves, tapas and discipline, can it also have an element of freedom? Do we even know how to do that? Do we know how to apply ourselves in our day-to-day lives when we're learning something, when something is hard, when something is stressful? Do we know how to apply it with a freedom? All right, who else has another posture? Kara, do you have a posture you want to play with this week? Ansel, Dibe, Santos, if you're still here, do you have a posture? I'm going to be thinking of another one myself. So I like Ardha Chandrasana. I think that I'm thinking of a bind pose because I think that it's kind of a contradiction, right? To be bound into a knot and yet finding a freedom in my mind, a freedom in my body. So maybe I'll stay with eagle since I just did that. So eagle is my contribution. So we've got half moon or Ardha Chandrasana, and then eagle or not Galavasana. Garudasana. Sorry, that was Belinda doing her own Sanskrit test. Okay, Kara says, what's the one called where we grab our big toe and lift it? Yes, to bind. Well, Kara, I'm going to move my camera now a little bit so that you guys can see, hopefully a little bit further back, and aim downward. Let's see. Kara, are you meaning that we'll come down here, but we'll have that foot and come up here and come out here, either way, standing, or are you doing that sitting? Let's see what Kara has to say. I think that that's what she means, and if that is what she means, Sanskrit, here we go. Uttita Hasta Parangustasana. All right, so we have 3 if I think that we've got that going on. All right, Kara, yay. All right, we're collectively making a practice plan here. We've got 3 postures. Ansel, you got one for us? It can be sitting, it can be laying down. It doesn't have to be hard stuff, you all. We can work on postures that maybe we think we already love and make us feel free, but if we spend a little bit more time in it, breaking it down, we might learn, I don't feel so free in it after all. All right. Okay. So we've got half moon, eagle, extended hand to foot pose. That's yours, Kara. Extended hand to foot pose. Ansel, you got anything? All right, I'm going to go 5, 4, 3. I'm trying to think of another one. 2, 1. No other posture anyone else wants to work on. You guys leave it up to me so much. Okie dokie. Now let me think. We did fish last week, so I don't really want to keep hammering on the fish. Let's do. Okay, we're gonna go do Salamba Sarvangasana, supported shoulder stand. All right, so I'm gonna write down what our poses are this week. Okay, half moon, eagle, extended hand to foot, and shoulder stand. Boom. And boom. All righty. Those are going to be the 4 poses. We're going to break them down a little bit and do a little bit of a flow, and we'll close out for our day. Does anyone have any questions, any thoughts before we kind of get up off of our tushies and start to get some movement? Oh, Ansel, here we go. Ansel was thinking of pyramid. A lot of straight-legged postures. Hey, but you do your thing. Actually, pyramid would be lovely. How about we break the rules? We extend some freedom into our plan and do 5 poses this week. How about that? We're going to add pyramid, or let me see. We're doing. Sorry, I'm having a Sanskrit index moment, and you're seeing it live, real time. I will come up with the Sanskrit in a minute because I know it. It's just, I have a little bit of elderly brain going on. And we're going to do pyramid pose as well. All right. Thank you, Ansel, for contributing. Anyone have any questions? Any thoughts about our plan so far this week? Any thoughts about Moksha, about how to apply it even into the check-in process? This is also a really good time for anyone to kind of share how developing and practicing your yoga plan has been so far. And it doesn't mean this is a true confession moment where we go, oh, I really haven't practiced. No, it's like, hey, this is what I've learned. How about flipping it to just look at what's gone well? What's changed in your mindset? What have you noticed about your bodies? What have you noticed about your breath? All right. I will keep my eye on the screen. I'm going to move my pillow out of the way, and we're going to get ready to move. Sorry, I'm thinking of, so it's Parshvakana, Padangustasana, Parshvottanasana. Sorry. So, Ansel, your posture is Parshvottanasana, pyramid pose. All right. So, in Sanskrit, here we go. Ardhachandrasana, half moon, Garudasana, eagle, extended hand to foot pose, Uttita Hasta, Padangustasana, and pyramid pose for Ansel will be Parshvottanasana. Okay. I'm going to give myself a cookie later. All right, everyone. Let's get on up and come to standing. Oh, Kara is saying something. I noticed so much more calm and intentional. I love the daily practice, been able to cultivate my own home practice too, which has always been intimidating before. Half an hour flew by for me. Oh, awesome. Congratulations. And thank you, Kara, for sharing. Doing a home practice, it can be difficult at first. But then after a while, hopefully it starts to become something where we're like, oops, something's missing. Oops, something's missing. Oh, yeah, I didn't connect in with me, my journey, my essence, my purpose, and getting to know what makes me feel free and grounded into my being. Wow, Kara. Stupendous share. Thank you. Okay, let's get up to come standing. And the first thing I want to do today is I'm just going to run through these postures. You don't have to try them because we're not warmed up, but I just want to give, I've given us, we've talked about things, but maybe we'll give a visual now onto what some of those postures look like. Okay. So for Joe and Claudia, because they're a unit, our half moon pose, ooh, there was my hip, is here. So the one leg on the ground, of course, is in mountain. My extended leg is extending. I'm turning the chest open here. Now, you could always have this hand here. There's all kinds of modifications, all right? So I'm just saying half moon. There we go. Ardha means half. Chandrasana. All right. The other posture, since I'm doing one-legged standings, Kara, well, you don't have to do it this way. We can use a strap, but I'm just coming up and out. You don't have to do the out. This is still Uttita Hasta. This is still Uttita Hasta. All right. Still standing before I get into the eagle for Ansel. And I'm really glad you chose this one because I actually need this one. I haven't practiced this one a lot in the last couple of weeks. And so this is good for me. So starting to notice I've got the feet about, I don't know, for me, maybe 2.5 feet. Y'all know, if you know me, I'm 5 foot tall. So, I'm not going to say 3 feet, 5 feet. Feel out your balance. Now, I'm going to show you this way because here's where I'm not. Here, you see where I've put both of my feet on the same line? We don't want to be on a tightrope. So we don't have the feet on the tightrope. I'm bringing my feet hopefully still in my hip distance. Now, what we're doing with the arms back there, that's a little superfluous. You can add in a little bit of the chest. But here's that pyramid aspect of the legs. And then we're going to bring the torso up and over. And see what that upper body wants to say. It can be rather intense on the low back. But actually, Ansel, that's a good amount of balance in our postures for this week because there weren't any intense like back stretching or hamstring stretchings out of the selection. Maybe a little bit of that extended hand to foot pose, but that's probably a little bit more rooted and grounded than stretching. I know, speak for yourself, Belinda, right? Okay, now eagle. All right, so I like to start my eagle in my chair. Okay, so I've got my eagle in my chair and I'm going to step this knee across that knee. Now, a lot of people, some people, okay, I'm going to say some, especially if you're watching memes and are on the internet a lot, you're going to see people with what appears to be that foot just like wrapping around, twirling around, almost like a morning glory vine around the standing leg. That's not possible for everyone. So here's the first step that I'm going to say is just have the toe down. Ground yourself. Feel the stretch on the sides of the thighs. What are some of the things that might inhibit us from being able to find this cross? Number one is going to be the girth of the flesh around your thighs, right? So if I have more girth on those thighs, this is about as close over as that thigh is going to be. I'm not going to slice it off, right? So let's all understand that we're living in the skin that we're in. It's a great way to start to bring that freedom of mind into how we're practicing in our bodies, rather than trying to fit our bodies into some preconceived notion that probably isn't realistic. All right, so here I am. I'm going to stay grounded. We're not warmed up here, so I'm going to have the toes down. And I like to say that whatever leg's on top, we're going to put that arm on bottom. But you know what? It really doesn't matter. You can do your arms as long as you switch. So here's a nice basic space for your eagle arms, just giving yourselves a wrap. And the same concept here is going to be what inhibits, as well as anything that's going on in our joints. All right, that is Belinda's contribution. Really great mixture, you all. We have 2 binding poses, one from me, one from Kara. We have a nice balancing pose from Claudia and Joe, as well as Kara, because that one is a balancing standing balance. And then we've got Parshvottanasana from Ansel, 2 feet on the ground. Woohoo! At least one of us has chosen a pose with 2 feet on the ground. All right, here we go. Salamba Sarvangasana. You guys know that we can do that against the wall, but this is again just the demo, and then we're going to flow for a little bit and maybe play with a little bit of each posture. But for Salamba Sarvangasana, we're going to lift up. So this is where you might realize you need to be at the wall. And start to notice how freely we can be here. Heels over butt, not feet over your face. Ha! Lots of stuff, right? Hi. Okay. Well, D-Bay, thank you for sticking around. Okay. So let's start a little bit of a flowing asana practice because we have already begun practicing our yoga, our 8 limbs of yoga, how we treat ourselves in the outside world, how we treat ourselves in our inside world, our poses, how we treat our bodies, how we treat our breath, how we live in it, how we live in our senses, our focus, our meditation, and unification, bringing it all together. All of that is our yoga. Let's start in child pose as far as a little bit of focus on our asana. And remember, hold close to your mind and your heart. And we want to practice feeling and applying freedom, emancipation, liberation. What is it that we want to be liberated from? How about this? What do we want to liberate to? How do we envision ourselves acting and speaking in that liberated state? Not away from. Freedom isn't just erasing something, and then that empty palette that's left is the freedom. Freedom is what we apply ourselves toward, right? So what is that vision of a freer mind and a freer body? And how do we start to live in it now? Start in hands and knees, child's pose. Please, I'll always be looking up at the comments and come and respond if I can. All right. So I'm going to come to my hands and knees, maybe knees wide. And I'm going to move singing bowls out of the way. Sink back to my heels. Where's your body? How is it feeling? Is there something you need to do to adjust how it is feeling? And if it is okay in whatever level of discomfort, can you free yourself from a cycle of maybe something you always do? Do you always adjust your clothes in a certain way? Or could you just live with that discomfort? Is it something that we can tolerate? Starting to learn to distinguish our needs from our wants. Starting to bring onto our mat, into our skin, differentiating happiness from pleasure and pain. Let's lengthen the arms, feel the limits and feel the range of these physical arms and our physical body. Send some love to them for any functionality that they have. I'm so appreciative. I have 2 limbs. So appreciative all of my digits work. And then I'll come forward into hands and knees. Let's tuck the toes and lift the hips up, down dog. Still in my gratitude here, grateful that my brain sent a signal in my body. So many ranges of my body responded. My hips are up, my head is releasing, my arms are supporting me. I can feel the skin around the backs of my calves tight. so tight that it's hard for me to actually feel the muscles underneath of that skin. I'm aware of my spinal column because it's crunching. Now, what's the freedom and liberation from effort? And the only way to know is to start to like decrease your effort or increase your effort and see where's the balance that we can do where we're not in exertion. And we'll bring the left knee down, step the right foot up. If you're new here, just go ahead and follow that instruction. If you've been coming a while, make your way up any way that you wish. Feet can be apart or together. Let's breathe in and lengthen the chest upright. Just kind of scan the body. Feel it responding. The torso suspended, unsupported, parallel to the earth. And then, let that carnal flesh hang. Maybe shift your weight forward and back so that we can notice how gravity is affecting our body weight and our perception of it. Then we'll roll the spine upright, coming to standing. Feel bones stack on top of bones. And breathe in and lengthen. Pressing the legs down, lifting the chest. Are we free here? Are we aspiring to something? Are we waiting for something to happen? What are we practicing? What are you practicing in this very moment? Applying yourself toward and forward fold. I'm going to step the left foot back foot flat. Right knee over right ankle and come up for warrior one. Starting to feel my groin, my hips, my low back, my thighs. Maybe spread the toes. Check in with the physical body. Feel its strength level, its willingness to go with the flow this morning. Is it with you? Is it ready to respond? How is it carrying our spirit? Breath in. And then I'm going to bring the hands down. Let's step that left foot up and straight it out. Notice how you get there. Did the joints want to move freely? Did the mind force the body too swiftly? Was the body not ready? And come up. And a lot of times, some of these probing questions that I'm sending out, really it indicates we probably need to slow down. Sometimes I can have a session on my own. I can go 3 hours because I'm not paying attention to time. I'm paying attention to being in what I'm in. And I hope for some, if you're new with us, you're really starting to notice the distinction of what I'm sharing as practice, completely different than a fitness class, all right? Are you going to get a physical benefit in your hips and in the hip flexors here? Certainly. Are we going to get some benefits circulation-wise? Yes. Are we here for that exclusively? No. If you are, I'm probably not the spot you want to be at. And that's great. There's so many people out here teaching so many ways to engage in your yoga. Let's lift what's free. Are we overlifting, right? Are we letting that desire take us out of a balance and a peace and a freedom? A freedom that we could kind of hold and be at ease. Can we maybe look at freedom as ease? And I'll bring the hands down. Let's step back to plank. So just kind of warming up, feeling where we are. I like to shift left and right, wake up my arms, feel a little strength, a little core. What's the state of my fire? Is my fire free? Or is my fire all locked up? Is my fire like, no, I don't want to come out? Do I even have any? Let's lower down to our bellies. All right, one cobra. I'm going to bring my hands back alongside my waist, inner thighs together, press down and feel the freedom. For me, especially my very first cobra, is me feeling the freedom in the chest cavity first thing this morning. How much freedom does my chest cavity want to give me? And just on a physical level. So I'm going to push down through the arms. Whew. And then my back says, that's it for right now. Cool. I'm going to keep my shoulders back, keep my belly on the floor, and then feel how much energy I have to press down through the arms. Can I find a balance of applying that? And then where else am I feeling and experiencing some freedom of breath? Freedom of movement. Am I still aspiring to lift that heart? And as I'm applying that, is that forcefulness or an application of energy? If I'm forceful, is that aggressive and is that free? Is that liberating me from a cycle of suffering? Or is my aggression keeping me stuck in something that I think is giving me freedom, but it's actually giving me stress? And child's pose. Breathe in, breathe out. All right, let's come forward to hands and knees. Tuck the toes, lift the hips down, dog. Maybe pedal your heels out. Maybe by doing that, you're feeling like, oh, okay, I'm loosening some spaces to feel something more free. Another way of kind of applying moksha and freedom is looking at it in terms of the element of santosha in the niyamas, right? Because freedom means I'm free, liberated from the cycles of suffering. So that means I should probably stop some cycle stuff. So maybe you can apply the lens throughout this week of things that you always do a certain way. Do you always pedal your down dog? And how about this week, you feel yourself not doing it? And you get to apply yourself to not doing something, freeing yourself from that pattern. And then we get to notice the body and notice the mind. And ask yourself, am I in pleasure? Am I in pain? Or am I in a contented space? Did I think that I couldn't do the down dog without it? All right, we're going to make our way up to the top of the mat. Bend the knees, sinking the butt back. We're going to do the eagle first. So choose whether your hands are at your heart or whether you're at your waist, whether you want to go for the wrap. I'm just going to do the legs for the sake of time because I want to hit our way through just feeling all of our spaces. I'm going to do the other leg this time because I demoed with my left leg. So I'm wrapping that right knee across. I've got the toes down, chair here. Maybe lift the arms. Maybe find your wrap. And maybe let the mind, number one, do what it does and just observe it. Because if we don't know our cycles, we can't liberate ourselves from them. So we probably need to watch our mind run around in circles over and over again, screaming, shouting, whatever's going on. And just say, okay, I'm going to breathe and observe. I am not suffering. I'm going to come up. And I'm going to go back in for the other side. Choose where the arms are. Try to pull the knees back, weights in the heels, chest is lifting. And I'm going to cross on that other side. I'm not going to toe touch here. I'm going to let that foot be up. I am not a rapper. I've done a rap now and again, not as in a musical rapper, because I could probably lay down a rap or two. But I mean, I don't rap the legs. I'm going to find a wrap here. Remember, your hands could be a prayer. Liberation. I am in a different body, a different space. Ooh, I did a slight twist of my right ankle yesterday, and I'm actually feeling it now. but I can feel that discomfort more as a distraction. It's not a, oh my God, you've got to get off of it. I could use it as an excuse, and I have in my life. And come up. Feel the mountain. Feel energy dispersing and changing. Let's breathe in and lengthen upward. Exhale, let's bring it back. Now, if you have, bring it down. If you've got a block, go ahead and grab it. If you don't have a block, maybe get a chair or a stool nearby. Hi, Philip. Welcome for joining us. All right, so I'm going to start with pyramid, okay? So you can have your hands at your block. And let's step the right foot back about 3 feet, 2.5 to 3 feet. Try to have the feet parallel, aiming forward. Remember not to be on that tightrope. I tried to show that quickly earlier. If you missed it, sorry, just hit replay when we're not live anymore. And then if you need support to come up, let's come up. All right, so here, this is going to be about lengthening. Well, you're going to encounter any inhibitions in your back, any limitations or tension in your back, maybe in the hamstrings. It is also kind of taxing on balance. So there's a lot for us to explore in a physical sense. We don't want to block anything out. We want to be present with it all. I'm going to bring my hands to my back. I'm going to do reverse prayer. You could grab a strap if you like. That's entirely up to you. All right. Here we go. Try to keep your hips aiming forward like headlights. I'm going to invite first a lengthening through the front of the body, okay? Because when we forward fold, we're going to lengthen the back of the body. A lengthening and openness, all right, you've heard it, a moksha, a freedom, a liberation. Where am I feeling any blockage? Am I meeting that blockage with force or ease, acceptance? Bringing myself up, reaching, lengthening. Now, as you go, if you need to let those arms come down to give you security, go ahead. If you can keep your hands in that reverse prayer, go ahead. Asking your root to be your solidity. Now I'm going to let the arms go. Maybe bring the block down behind you. Left hip up and back, right hip down and forward. Feel those words again. Left hip bone, pull it up and back. Right hip bone down and forward. Try not to lock your knees. Freedom and ease in the joints, in the cartilage. No strain or aggression in any of those spaces. Now, if you're feeling like something is changing over time, like you can accept being here over time, can we now maybe embrace the notion of freedom as an actionable verb that is constantly transitioning, changing, evolving? So there is no there in terms of freedom either. Right? There's no perfect freedom sequence, achieved. There is no perfection of freedom or liberation. It's a constant act. It's transforming. We're learning new layers as we go. All right, now I'm going to encourage us to bring our hands out to that block. Shift your weight into that leg, the front leg. And let's lift the right leg up and back and drive that heel back. Now, it might be harder now for us to start to kind of keep a nice, easy, free mind because we might be feeling a little wobbly. Our core is doing more work to sustain and hold our body weight. The more we lift elements of our body off the earth, the more our core, our torso has to hold itself. It's got nothing that's grounding us. So right now, it's just our hands on the block and our left leg. Now I'm going to twist my right hip open. Now this might be a hard concept to embrace while we're in a video world. I'm going to try my best to show twisting the hip not just the leg. So I'm turning my pelvis even open, trying to stack the hip over the left hip, still driving the energy of that right heel back to that wall. I'm going to keep my left hand on this block. Now, I just noticed I had a desire to want to hurry up because I'm worried about time, and I see people are here with me, so I'm like, hurry up and show them the pose. But that is not me free. That's me losing my liberation from my cycles of demanding. And that was then giving me a loss of my grounding. So I'm bringing myself back and I'm waiting. And then maybe I'm going to start to bring my hand to my hip. So I had to free myself from my own expectation. The left leg was a little mad too because it said hurry up. All right, so I'm twisting, standing. But I have to admit there's a whole bunch of fight going on. And I get to observe it, right? I don't sit, I'm not going to start saying, here's how I sucked at Moksha practice today. I'm going to look at, whoa, look at all that fight and look at me really working on applying forgiveness and acceptance. And that softened my experience. I'm going to bring the right leg down. Let's shake that left leg out. All right, we're going to step the left leg back. Getting ready for pyramid on this side. Making our way up to standing. Maybe readjust where the feet are. Find your clasp. Secure your legs. Try not to lock the knees. Maybe offer this upward lift. And we get to encounter fears of falling. How do we get liberated from that cycle? We get fear of our structure won't hold. How do we get liberated from that cycle? Applying some trust. Bringing ourselves forward. What is liberation as an applied action? Pulling the chest, feel what I feel. Now my hamstring on this side is like, yeah, don't you even confuse me with your left side. I'm like, I hear you, right side, got you. So I got my hands down, feeling that difference, and that's just for me. Maybe pull that right hip up and back, left hip down and forward. We can all be feeling different things in our calf muscles, our Achilles tendons, our back muscles. I'm going to let my upper body go now because my body changed. My body accepted. It found some liberation from the tension in some of the tissues by applying some contentment and some patience. And I'm noticing that when the body is in a peaceful space, my mind gets to start to slow down. It might wander to other stuff, right, if it gets bored. But right now it's like, ooh, that 5-alarm fire is over. I can chill. And see if I can practice my mind not having to be doing something all the time. Because that's a cycle. That's a cycle that we want to also learn to be free from. All right, so I'm going to bring my hands. We're going to find that half moon, hopefully on this side. So hands to the block. Shift your weight forward so that we bring ourselves consciously into rootedness. And I feel pretty free right here in this root so that it's pretty effortless, like for me to lift that left leg because I feel that secure. Do I know how to establish freedom for future freedoms? So secure that stability. I'm going to twist that hip open. All right, now I wanted to really root into that foot, calf, thigh. This is the ankle that I said that I twisted. So I'm feeling that out, but it's actually not that bad. Here we go. Once again, my mind got ahead of my body. Maybe we lift the other arm. Are we freeing ourselves of a desire to be perfect here? Do we believe that there is a perfect in this pose that we can achieve? I'm going to bring the hands down, bring the foot down. And bring ourselves up. All right, we're going to have time to do the extended hand to foot, and then we'll log it off, and we'll work on shoulder stand a little bit more tomorrow, okay? So if you have a strap, go ahead and get one. If you have a belt, what am I trying to say? A scarf, go ahead and get one. I'm going to go rummage a strap out of my basket over here. Quick rummaging, voila. All right. So I'm going to bring that underneath of my left foot because I've already demoed that pose twice with you all, but I did it all with my right leg. Talk about a pattern, right? I do lean toward my right side for a lot of things. That's another way for us to embrace moksha, liberation from cycles. What are the cycles that we know of? What are the cycles that we're still going to learn about that we do? And we go, darn it, I thought I was freeing myself from my cycles. All right, so hold the strap, take the slack out of the line, all right? So the elbow isn't bent, and if you straighten the arm, there isn't loose strap down. So now I'm going to turn sideways so we can see. All right, so we're in the mountain. Now, let's just do it with a strap to start, even if you feel like you're a good foot grabber. Press down with the right foot, and we're going to ask the left leg to lift and extend. Now, there might be a stoppage point. Start to feel out, when are you forcing to try to strain to get it into some sort of angle? Now, I'm going to switch hands and then take the hand closer to the foot, taking that slack out of the line so that the arm is helping hold the leg. Let's just stay here for today. This is basically the shape of warrior 3, but standing on the right leg with the leg extended in front of us instead of behind us. If we were in warrior 3, the left leg would be on the floor. So stand in it as though it was on the floor and the right leg was up behind you. And the chest is lifting. Love every wobble, okay? I'm not wobbling here, but you guys saw me wobble on some of the other spaces. And we'll bring ourselves down. What I love about the wobbles, or what some may call as a failure or a flaw or whatever, is that that's when I get to see all the crap that's going on in my mind, because it leaks right out. It's pretty critical. It's like, you messed that up. You've been doing this for years. Why can't you do that? That was a sucky video. Nobody's going to want to watch it. Yeah, all the crap that comes leaking out of my brain. All right. And then I get to know, wow. Ego much, how much self-esteem is tied into things, so many elements that way maybe I can start to use my practice to help me say, whew, that's not helping me. That's not forgiving. That's not loving. That's not kind. Really? Is my whole self-worth bound up in that one expression of that one pose? And if somebody is going to judge me on that, bonk that. Now, it's easier for me to say that for someone else's behavior, but am I that good in my own mind? To start to practice and live that self-acceptance and that self-love. So I've got that other leg, and I'm going to make my way. Now remember that time is an element of our yoga plan. And I know that I have not personally been working enough on where are my limits of my peaceful mind in holding this pose. So I could probably start to push that, right? Maybe to like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then I get to observe what's starting to fatigue. Because if we don't start to find those edges, we don't get to practice and observe our distinction between happiness, pleasure, and pain. And notice if we're tying our happiness or our notion of happiness to pleasure or pain, or aversion of pain. Where's that peace? Free myself from even wanting to avoid pain. What? What did she just say? And lower it down. I'm going to shake that out. All right, I'm going to come down to sitting. I'm going to angle this down a little bit because I don't think that you might see the top of my Mac. I'm going to find a comfortable seated space and I'm just going to twist. Twists are a wonderful way of getting energy to move and exert on both sides, up and down our columns, as an even way of wringing out, detoxifying, resetting the clock, and over to the other side. And some of those standing poses were rather intense for the focus, intense for applying the body. So we get to wring out the body towel with a twist. Let's do a nice little check out or checking in. Try to let go of thinking about words right now. Don't worry about trying to remember anything. Be here now in what you can observe, feel, experience, perceive. When you notice your mind thinking or analyzing, bring it back to just noticing, being in your skin, being a warm-blooded mammal, feeling time and space around you. And observe what is. And can we liberate ourselves from the cycles of our perception of what is, which is opening ourselves to different perceptions of what is. Hands to the heart center. All that is love and light and joy in me is deeply grateful for all that is love and light and joy in you. And that is English for namaste. So namaste, everyone. I appreciate you hanging out and letting me take some liberties with time. And thank you for letting me find some spaces of vulnerability to find my truth in sharing as honestly as I can my practice. And if that means that I fall around on a couple of things, then I'm falling around on a couple of things. I get an opportunity to absorb and learn and reiterate and practice all of these elements of the limbs of yoga in this sharing. So I get to have a depth of practice and hopefully hold myself true and accountable to hopefully walking the path the way I want to walk it, not the way I think others need to see me walk it. And that's hard. That's hard. We live in a really judgmental, comparative culture. And I'm a part of that culture. I'm a product of it. And so it's a pattern, right? And I'm trying to liberate myself even from that pattern. And so I'm deeply grateful for anyone who shows up and finds any value in anything that I share, and for all of you for sharing with me. I'm going to stick around for a little bit. Again, I'm Belinda, Just Be Yoga. This has been our home yoga practice live, beginning of our week, Tuesday through Friday. We work on a theme for the week, 4 elements to creating a yoga practice plan. Write out the thing that you want to practice, Moksha, and maybe some elements of what you want to practice about it. 4, we choose some postures, asana, that we want to practice with it. And this week we broke some rules, right? We decided to do 5. So we're doing half moon, eagle, extended hand to foot, shoulder stand, and pyramid. Pose. Belinda, you know how to. Why didn't any of y'all tell me that whole time that was up there with post? I declare. There, pose. Belinda knows how to spell. Deeper Dimensions of Yoga is a great book to look for, and I don't know if this is going to be linkable, that I'm posting up here as a link. If it is, I hope that you can click it and go to it. It was a fun little video quiz that gives you a little history. I think it's really for school kids, but whatever. That you can check out online, that lets you learn a little bit more about the Hindu aspects of moksha, the religious aspects of moksha. Here, I'll put it in the comments. Yeah, if it helps deepen your understanding, great. Look it up, Moksha, and start to apply it. So we make a plan. We set up the amount of time that we're going to commit to practicing. And that practice doesn't have to just be poses, okay? We know our 5 poses. Breath was just going to be the check-in. Another aspect of the plan this week was looking at our plan. Can we incorporate looking at our check-in and our meditative space? How are we finding freedom in it and practicing it? And then we observe. Write out in your journal. We've had a quick little check out here today. Maybe write a few notes of what you observed about yourself, not about what you observed about me. And lastly, the guidance, and that's where I've given you the reading. If there's some material that you would like to read, many of you know that I'm a big advocate of Heart of Yoga by T.K. Jessica Char. This is my Bible. I don't know if I've shown this to many of you before. It's pretty dense, pretty hard. I beat it up, but it's called Yoga and Kriya, a systematic course in the ancient tantric techniques of yoga and kriya. Study whatever it is you want to study, and then you'll learn from that, and you'll pick up new studies, and you'll start to direct yourself to what it is that you want to study more about. You start to be more keen about the delivery of the kinds of information and the teachings of the people that you go to. I may not be everybody's cup of tea, and I know that. I'm not jump around physical fitness yoga. Sometimes I can be, but I really would like to be able to offer as much of a genuine understanding of yoga as I can, and how it can help us today, right? I don't want you to have to put on a loincloth and try to pretend to be a swami. Nope, I'm not wearing a loincloth and trying to pretend to be a swami, but I am trying to live the principles of yoga because it helps me, number 1, decrease my stress, and I don't want to scream and yell. 2, I think it helps me be a better person in my community, to help uplift my community in times of need, such as now. All right. Thank you so much, Claudia. Everyone, have a wonderful day. Namaste.